Hey guys, it's Mandy Gatlin with Discover Your Energy, and it's Friday, and we are creeping up on this full moon, eclipse moon, and I thought this would be a perfect time to do our energy update check-in with you guys. I love doing these with you guys live. And it gives me a chance to go through the energies. I like to tune in with you live. I have some notes about things that I know that are coming up that I want to address, but then I also want to address some things that you guys have been coming to me with lately. You're all feeling the same thing. I always look for patterns, and I'm always looking for what you guys are experiencing. Some of you guys are experiencing waves of these emotions right now. Some of you have been feeling like kind of shaky, headaches. You're having huge transformations. A lot of you have actually been feeling relief, which is a good thing, because in December, we went through some major transformation. There were a lot of people that crossed over, a lot of animals that crossed over. Whenever we have these huge kind of like energy, I call them like energy waves, but it's like an energy smackdown. We end up having people that are vulnerable. I actually see waves of them crossing over. So I had a lot of people contacting me with family members who were crossing over. A lot of animals crossed over. So that's very common during that time. And it's not good or bad, just it is what it is. But now we're kind of breaking out of that, and we're in this little window here in January between a couple of eclipses. And that energy can be a little bit interesting for people. But I want to remind you guys of some things so that you don't take on the energy too much, like so you don't take things too personally. That's always a good thing to remember. So we just got done with this partial solar eclipse over the weekend, and a lot of you felt it. A lot of you were telling me you were experiencing headaches, the shakes, all kinds of things. And then right now what we're leading up to is we're going into a full moon lunar eclipse. So in this one, a lot of people are chatting about, I think there's more anxiety around this one than there was with the solar eclipse for some reason, but the solar eclipse was actually pretty rough for people. So I think that solar eclipse kind of like punched us in a way and was like, hey, you guys, wake up, and now we're going into this lunar eclipse a little bit more prepared, like a little bit more like, okay, you have to have the first punch to kind of be like, okay, right. I'm in 2019. Okay, so what we can expect for this year is we're going to have a couple of these major eclipse times during this year, and I want to go through those with you guys and kind of give you a heads up about what to expect. So we have this lunar eclipse coming up on Monday, around Monday, depends on where you are in the world. But basically a lot of you guys are experiencing emotions right now, and that is always typical of our of our moon. So if you're a woman in particular, a lot of you guys are just not aware that you are very swayed by the moon. If you notice your emotions kind of going high and low and all over the place, and you sometimes think that you're, going crazy, I want you to remember to look at the moon and really put that on your calendar, because it's a good reminder to say, oh, okay, I'm flowing right now with the moon's energy. As it gets more and more full, you start to feel a lot of your emotions coming to the surface, and it's a great opportunity for you to release and to purge. So that's always a good reminder. When we have these eclipses, Eclipses, if you can think of them as kind of like a reset button, you know, it's like a time when you shift, when you change. And so it's always a good time to reflect on what is going on in your life, you know, that you're not feeling all that great about, or it could be something you're even feeling nudged about changing, and to take a real hard look at that and try to take some actions, you know. So it might be that you have to release some things first, and that is what I'm seeing actually in a lot of you guys. There's things that you're still like hanging on to or holding on to, and you've got to let those things go. Like if you're wanting a new relationship in your life, or if you're wanting your relationship to flourish, then you have to let go of old energy. That means cutting out things. So I'm using relationship as an example, but I'm seeing this happen for you guys in many ways. So it's even in your work and you know, your lifestyle and everything. So remember, you have to cut things out before you can actually feel that new energy come in. Okay, so this eclipse is a perfect time for that. This full moon is a perfect time for that. I wanted to also kind of remind you guys about crystals that you can use during this time, because a lot of you guys have been asking me about crystals lately. So this is citrine. This is a perfect crystal for helping you mitigate depression and anxiety. Crystals like these are very high vibrational, and they help to absorb negative energy for you. So you can use crystals in your life. I want to remind you that crystals absorb energy, and then you need to be responsible with them and make sure to clear them or cleanse them. Okay, so a perfect time would be this full moon, this eclipse. It would be amazing to put your crystals outside in that full moon light and let them all get cleansed. Now, if you miss the full moon, okay, if you're seeing this video after that and you're like, darn it, you can smudge your crystals too. Some people do put them in water and salt water and that kind of stuff and sunlight, but that can sometimes damage certain crystals. So you want to make sure to research that before you do. Every crystal is different. And so I usually say to just go with smudging, like use sage and just smudge your crystals, or to use moonlight. You can also use music, like Tibetan singing bowls. You can, put your crystals like in a little grid around you, and then get your bowl out and play your singing bowl, and the vibration will help your crystals to release and cleanse too. Okay, so that was a tip that I wanted to give you guys. Citrine is a great one. Smoky quartz. There's all kinds of crystals that are great for helping you stay clear. Okay, during this time, especially right now, we have a lot of people are calling me with depression energy. And a lot of you guys are experiencing stuff in your families, like your families are squabbling, and know that this is happening not just on a micro level, not just in your family, but take a really hard look at like what's going on for us universally in our country. You know, in the States here, we have a lot of divide, a lot of division energy. So a lot of people are seeing like split, you know, in their family. And I'm going to get into that a little bit more in this talk, because I definitely want to get into a concept that is something that I hold it near and dear to my heart. It's the concept of the mud and the lotus flower. It's something that kept coming to me as a message for a very long time, and I had no clue what it meant. Back in the day when I used to go to meditation regularly, we would often pull a card and look at this card and study it and try to see something in the card. And every time I looked at the card, I would always see mud. And it just became kind of a running joke for myself and for the group. No matter what the card looked like, I always saw mud in the card. And mud was becoming a huge symbol for me. And I took it as frustration, that my life is just mud and everything is mud, and that's all that I saw. And it wasn't until much later that it clicked for me when I was listening to a talk by Thich Nhat Hanh, that you need the mud in order for the lotus flower to bloom. And that stopped me in my tracks, and I realized what the mud represents. It's the place of growth. Now, the reason that I'm bringing this up, the mud and the lotus flowers, because we are heading into a year in the Chinese calendar, we're heading into the Earth Pig. Okay, so we always have an element for the year, and we always have a Chinese animal for the year. And we're heading into the Earth Pig. So the Earth, all right, is the element of like the mud, okay, basically. And what do pigs love? They love mud. Okay, so it's actually a perfect combination coming up this year for us to really get into the things that we need to be fully embracing in order for us to grow. Okay, and so that means, like, think of a pig and what a pig likes to do. It loves to just like bury itself down into the mud and just get in it and get relaxed. And that's when it's most peaceful and just having a good time. So you want to make sure to allow that for yourself this year. The mud is the place where you grow. Okay, you have to have, and I call it darkness, right? And there's always two sides to things. So we have darkness and light. We have the mud and the lotus flower. And the mud is kind of representative of the darkness. But you have to have the darkness in order to have light. You can't have one without the other. You have to have both. It's when you finally get that you realize that the mud is not so bad. It's actually a place where you can enjoy and grow and just be kind of patient and understanding with yourself and with others. So what I'm going to predict for 2019, because we're going into the Earth Pig, is that many of you are experiencing stuff with your families and with yourself. You're experiencing a lot of kind of this split in energy, a split in between the darkness and the light sides of you. And even though you want to be in the light really, really badly, you want to have light in your family connections, you want to have light in everything you do, in your job, in your relationship, and all of that. This year is not about that. This year is about darkness. I'm not going to say like it's all doom and gloom, you guys, okay? That's not what darkness is about. It's about getting really deep and getting relaxed, right? And understanding that you need that to like put your roots in the ground. So if you can think of the mud, what is that really to a plant? That is the roots. That's where the plant's roots go down in and get its nutrients. That's where it gets the good stuff, okay? So really understand this like from kind of a higher place. Don't go thinking like, okay, it's all going to be dark this year. But we are going into the Earth Pig. So that means that we're going to be experiencing some of these aspects of ourselves that are more what we would call in the dark. Okay, so it might be things that you've been hiding, things that haven't been revealed yet. So I have really like excitement about this because I can see that for a lot of you guys who have been holding back on your potential, holding back on your gifts, that you're finally going to be coming into some of this. You're going to finally be realizing your gifts even more. And so this is about really going and digging deep. For a lot of you guys, you're going to be experiencing spiritual, what I call spiritual awakenings or spiritual openings. So if you've never been through that before, then please reach out to me and I can kind of give you an idea of what to expect. But if you have been through it before, then I would suggest to kind of like prepare yourself, because you're probably going to have another one. Okay. So if you've been through it before and you remember what that was like when you had your spiritual awakening before, you probably already have felt it coming, because for a lot of you guys last year, you started to reach out to me and say things like I was getting psychic sickness. A lot of you guys were getting vertigo. A lot of things that your emotions were kind of coming to the surface. You felt like you had to release things from your life and you didn't know why. So a lot of you guys have been leading up to this, and now we're finally kind of coming into it now, okay, this year. So we have these eclipses during the year, and those eclipses support us. They help you kind of do that reset each time to help you transition, right? To help you see what you need to see about yourself and really shift it or change it. So we have one here coming up on Monday. A lot of you guys, that one is centered around depression and your like family ties and your ties to your job and that sort of thing. And I want to remind you guys that I'm always reminding you guys of this, that, you know, remember that many of you are empaths, and the energy that you're feeling is not so much yours, but it's everyone's. It's like a collective energy that you're experiencing. So remember that, okay? Yes, you are going through your own stuff, but on a greater level, you are an empath. You're feeling a lot of energy from what's going on in the world, and the shift and the change that we're all going through, this transformation that we're all going through, okay? So the next eclipse that we are going to have is going to be in midsummer. And that eclipse is going to be around July 2nd. It's a total solar eclipse. Now, we had one of these last year, and all of you guys went buggers, like all of you. So I'm expecting that this summer, in the middle of summer, I'm going to hear from a ton of you guys that you're all going through the same thing. You know, during this eclipse, you're all going to feel kind of like pushed or smacked or something, okay? So just remember that that's what the purpose of the eclipse is. If you need support around that time, then reach out to me, or make sure that you have a good team of people around you, that you guys are all talking about this in a positive way, to help each other through that time, okay? Then we have our next, what I'm going to call big eclipse, because we're going to have various ones through the year, but the really big one is at the end of this year, and it's called an annular eclipse, and it is on December 26th. So it's the day after Christmas. The thing about that eclipse is that we generally have a lot of kooky, crazy kind of energy leading up to Christmas time. Because there are various holidays that all of the religions celebrate during that time, and everyone is worried about giving gifts and going to see family, and like, you know, all of your stuff comes to the surface during that time, because you're challenged by like your family and all of your obligations and all of that kind of stuff. So I'm expecting that final eclipse is just going to kind of be the icing on the cake for a lot of you, where you're just gonna get your final like red button reset, okay? If you haven't shifted or changed what you need to this year, it will probably happen around that time. All right, so that's my prediction for 2019. I really think, just to explain too what an annular eclipse looks like, The sun, it looks like a ring of fire, okay, because the moon is in front of the sun and it creates this like red fire ring. All right, so picture that, like the day after Christmas, everyone's like looking at this. So it's going to be, pretty dramatic. And when we have eclipses, whether or not you believe in them and what they do, I'm always kind of sitting back and watching people, because people go bonkers over eclipses. And I realize that the reason that happens is because there's like this innate knowing in everyone that's a huge, that those are huge energy bodies showing us something. And always these, like the sun and the moon and the way that the light reflects off of them, is very significant if you think about it. If the moon is picking up the sunlight, then it's reflecting its light. So it's always saying something about, what we're going through internally. I almost said eternally. But, it's always saying something about what we're going through. So if you're able to stay in the observer mode, during these times, make sure to take good care of yourself around those times. I remind you to ground yourself, during those times. So you want to make sure to, go for a walk, barefoot, in some grass. Go sit next to trees or be next to trees if you can. Make sure to get crystals. I already talked about this a little bit, but make sure to get some crystals that will help support you during that time. Do something that also brings you joy or that helps you to recenter. And I usually suggest something that has music related, because music brings up your vibration. So if you love listening to music, whatever music you love, or dancing to music if you're a dancer, playing music if you love to play an instrument, doing the singing bowls if you love that. So I usually suggest something centered around music, because that instantly raises your vibration, and it can significantly help you, like change, your energy from feeling kind of like, oh, like this is tough, to, okay, this is manageable. So I wanted to give you guys some of those tips and some of those pointers, and then also remind you about this year and the energy of this year being the Earth Pig coming up. We have that shift coming up here pretty soon. To just feel into that energy and what that represents. If you think about what the earth means, earth energy is very grounded energy. So I'm not surprised that we're going into that energy right now, because really, like, for our earth as it is, we not only do we need to be kind of caretaking the earth more, but really be more grounded in what we're doing, and really kind of feel into our roots and who we are and the transition, what we're needing in terms of better energy here, and grounding in energy. We have so many of you guys coming in as light workers, and so many of you are feeling your gifts, and I can see that shift and that change for people. You're getting kind of like really pushed into your gifts significantly. You cannot utilize them unless you are grounded. So it's very important to make, and it's like really, really important to make sure that you are grounding and that you feel into your roots and understand the energy of grounding. Okay, so that is coming up. That's going to be supporting us this year. So thank you guys so much for tuning in for this 2019 energy update. If you guys have any questions about this specific energy update, please leave them below, and I will be happy to answer your questions about what's to come. I do offer personal sessions, and you can check out my website if you feel the need to do that. I do have a course too online that's a 28-day meditation course that helps you connect more to your gifts. So you can check that out too on my website. It's at amandagatlin.com. Okay, thank you so much for joining me, you guys, and I will see you guys in a little while when the energy's shifting and changing. I'll do a new check-in with you guys. All right, thanks so much, and lots of love to you guys. Bye.